What's good? It's your girl TT on the mic. Welcome back. We are still kicking off a great week of homecoming, and we got more festivities for you right here at Forever Connected. Today, I have a special guest with me, our Student Government Association President and Vice President of Administration, and we're going to go ahead and welcome them all now. Come on up here, family. How y'all doing? Hey, girl.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good.
What's up, family?
What's up?
Go ahead and get a mic and make yourself comfortable because we're going to have definitely a good time today. I just want to get to know you both a little bit better. So start by giving us your first name, last name, and major.
Okay, well, my name is Kayla Washington. I am a senior criminal justice major from Frisco, Texas.
I am Mark Booker. I'm a senior criminal justice major from Houston, Texas.
All right, and both of you are proudly representing for the Student Government Association. What is something that really inspired you and influenced you to want to be a part of that organization?
Well, when I first arrived here my freshman year, I had no idea what college was like. I was super excited to be here, but I didn't know that in college you have struggles or difficulties. But it was some things that I saw on campus. I was like, there's no way this should be okay for students to endure. And then I realized that we had an organization that was tasked to lead the fight for students, and it was like, okay, well, how can I become a part of that? And I just so happened to be able to join my sophomore year, but I really got into it my junior year when I served as vice president of special events. And then that ultimately led me to, okay, Mark, let's go bigger. Let's do the change that you really want. And here I am now as the Student Government Association president.
All right now, and what about you?
So for me, when I first got to college, I was excited to jump on and join everything. The first organization that I did join was Panther AIDS, which everybody knows is like a mentee mentorship program into student government. And a couple of my mentors were in SGA, and so watching them being my mentors, I was like, oh, this is something I definitely want to be a part of.
All right, well, I'm proud of both of you, and I think that you've both done a great job at just growing professionally and, of course, academically. Speaking of professionally, one of our greatest traditions here is the Professionally Dressed Tuesdays.
Yes.
So just tell me a little bit about how that started and what does it mean to Prairie View A&M University?
Professional Dress Tuesday started years ago. When I first got here, it was weird. Like, people were walking around in suits on a Tuesday. Like, why is that happening? But really, it dates back to when we wanted to set a professional tone when it relates to being in college, right? To prepare you for the real world and life. Sometimes we come here as underclassmen, as freshmen and sophomores, you don't really understand you in college. Like, this is a professional world. So it started to get that tone set for our freshmen and our sophomores, as well as seniors and juniors now, that set the right pace for us to have. And in return, we'll have the appropriate people, freshmen and sophomores, to follow that and to set that tone for us. So I love it. I do it every Tuesday, and I fight to get everyone else to get back on board, especially coming from a year away from in person. So, yeah.
And as a young woman, when it comes to Professionally Dressed Tuesday, what does professionally dressed look like to you, especially being a natural sister? And what representation do you want to make sure that other young women see with that?
So for me, I love professional dress. I actually like dressing in professional dress pretty often. And as a woman of color, it's beautiful to see you're walking around campus and everyone looks like you. We've all got our natural hair. We know that in the professional, we're trying to break through and get people comfortable with having their natural hair. So for me, it's almost like practicing for what I would be doing when I get into the professional world.
Well, I think you guys are doing an amazing job, but we're not even going to stop there. What are other traditions that you would like to implement into the student body at Prairie View A&M University to help cultivate us in a professional and academic way?
Well, honestly, at this moment, we're looking at ways to get students back out, away from what they're used to being inside doors and on computers, getting them to be engaged. One of the things is knowing your campus, having fun on your campus. Of course, we come to college to get a degree and get education, but this is where you make your memories. This is where you really set your tone for where you want your life to go. So right now, as far as me and SGA, we're trying to figure out ways that will incorporate us visiting and going out and do recruitment and retention for our campus, as well as making sure we set that tone for how we want our campus to be perceived going forward. But also tying into that is figuring out what can we do on our campus that will keep our students here engaged, to keep them here with us. So it's really one thing that Kayla brought up to us yesterday in our executive branch meeting was getting Prairie View used to do where colleges would come out and rip their college out for a day. And we're trying to get back into that because really, you don't really run into other majors if you're not friends with them or see them in the cafeteria. So finding out ways to incorporate with different colleges is one of the things that I think we're working on now. But Kayla definitely has more insight on it.
Okay.
So I know for me, one major tradition that I want to have here at Prairie View is a solidified student section. When we have our games, our sporting events and everything, students are kind of scattered all over the gym or the stadium. So I think that us having that solidified section will bring us that school spirit and unity to be able to cheer on all of our sports teams.
Oh, now that is something that I definitely look forward to. I've been to many games, and I do agree with you. We are everywhere, and it's great when you see the purple and gold all over, but I truly believe that there should be a section for our current students and our undergrad students to be able to know that they can sit there and that's allocated for them. So that's pretty dope. Now, it's homecoming, all right? So one thing about professionalism is there's 5 o'clock at some point of each day, and when you got to take off that business suit and them pearl earrings, you want to still set your homecoming out. So I know it's a different kind of year and we can't do everything that we're normally used to doing, but what are some traditions that you're still going to do this year to make sure you set your homecoming out?
Man, oh my gosh. I'm super excited that we have a homecoming this year. And one of the main things I'm looking forward to is running into alumni and having the school spirit at an all-time high, right? Because one, we're back. We're having a homecoming game. The excitement is there for me. I think students are excited. But just making sure people understand that we are having a homecoming. Nothing has changed. We still have our concerts as scheduled. We still have our student activities. Now, some things are virtual and some things are in person, but the thing is I'm looking forward to that I know that I'm going to do like I've done before. I'm going to set it out. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to mingle with alumni. I'm going to have some school spirit. And then come the game for homecoming, I am going to tee up completely.
All right now. And what about you?
So for me, as Marquin said, I absolutely love gaining all the wisdom from the alumni. Just walking around, my favorite thing to hear is, oh, this wasn't here when I was here, this used to be a dorm, all of that. I love hearing those stories. I love hearing about, oh, we couldn't be on this side of campus. If we were a girl, we couldn't be on this side past this time. And if you were, they were calling your parents.
The permission slip.
Absolutely. So just getting to speak with the alumni, for me, yes, everybody knows that homecoming game, I'm going to have my purple and gold. I'm going to be all the way out. And like Marquin said, we're going to tee up. So.
Well, y'all already know I like to cut up like scissors on split ends, but that's just me. So definitely looking forward to seeing you guys do your thing. And one thing about getting out into the community is making sure you're somewhere where people can actually reach you. So let the people know how they can actually find you.
So the Student Government Association office is located in the Memorial Student Center on the 2nd floor. If you go up the stairs located right by the entrance to the cafeteria, you go down the hallway right there with the first door to the right. And we have our emblem right there. Our windows don't have blades, don't have blinds, so you're able to see directly inside of it.
Okay.
And you can contact me, at least for me, at mbooker12@pvmu.edu, and we can have a conversation, anything that you spoke about.
All right. And do you have an email or a personal contact that people can reach you at as well?
Absolutely. So you can reach me at my email as well. It is kwashington102@pvamu.edu.
Well, I truly appreciate having both of you here with me today, and I hope that you have an amazing homecoming, successful school year, and y'all make sure you stay tuned. We have so much more going on, but in the meantime, we're about to set your homecoming out.
Set it out, set it out, set it out.
TT on the mic. We'll be right back with Forever Connected.
Dear Prairie View, the pain we felt was preparation for our purpose. The time we gave was lightning for the storm. The hill became our home. It became our passage to victory. There will be no retribution without sacrifice. There will be no pride without fight. We stand on the shoulders of giants and will build a future for our future. We will welcome the late nights. We will depart from fear. We will not descend, fall, or tilt. Because this is where champions are built.
My birth name is Emmanuel Lee Bean. My moniker is Outspoken Bean, and my title is now Poet Laureate, Houston Poet Laureate. And what that means is I share poetry with people across the state and beyond state lines, you know, yeah. So at Writers in the Schools, which is the organization I work for, based here in Houston in the Montrose area of the H, we send writers of all backgrounds into schools to fit all backgrounds of the young people that we serve. You know what I'm saying? So it's important because I used to have an old answer, but here's why it's really important. I think through creative writing, you're able to build empathy. I think if building empathy it's like erosion. It's subtle, it's nuanced, but the change is lasting. The change is longer, right? And I think it's really important to, you know, one, yes, writing is important. That's the education for like what they're not taking the STAR anymore, but whatever they're taking. Wait, no, yeah, they are taking the STAR, right? I took TOS. I'm a TOS baby. So, but whatever the standardized test, all right, fine, whatever. We can teach that, but it's important to like expose young minds to writers who don't look like them and who do look like them, if you know what I'm saying. And to bring these stories in and to help build not just a critical mind, right, which I think is important, but a mind that empathizes. Question everything, but also question with empathy and riding shotgun. I think that's something that we do well. And that's what I try to do now. Like that's kind of my steering point as I teach, as I coach with young people, as I coach with the Metaphor Houston Poetry Slam Team, the Youth Slam Team, as I coach with the Prairie View Slam Team that I started years ago. I'm trying to not just I want the empathy actually to be the driver and the critical thinker to be shotgun. Actually, I would switch it. Those are my thoughts. I began building my resume by just saying yes to everything. Reaching out, contacting people, and saying yes to everything. So in 2009, I was graduated, and I had started, Prairie View Productive Poets was going still, and I went with them to Galveston, Corpus. I went with them to Corpus, where the regional was happening. We got second. I was a little annoyed about that, but anyway. But there was this guy who was like the featured poet, artist. His name was Joaquin and Gino. They were both from Dallas. Joaquin's out to LOL. And I was blown away by him. I was like, yo, this dude's official. And after everything was done, I went and talked to him. I was like, because he had said he told his story. He told his story how he got into, he was a teacher, and then he started doing poetry, and then he just started talking about his story and stuff like that, how he stopped teaching, and he started saying things. It's like, yo, I was like, oh, you don't live in your car doing this, you know what I mean? And so afterwards, I went to him. I was like, hey man, what were like the steps? Like, so you gave us the story, but what are the steps in between? And he was like, APCA, NAPCA. And he literally sat me down. I was like, yo, apply to this. And even small things are going to be big for you later. Even if they don't pay, right? Start getting used to saying what a price is. And he just started telling me all these different things. And yo, Joaquin, thank you. If you ever see this video, thank you. Thank you for that, man. But he was the person that like really like encouraged me, that was a poet, right? Everyone else, I had a lot of encouragement, you know. My story is not, teachers never saw anything in me. That's not my story. You know, people always saw things in me. But he was like the first poet who made it, right? That I saw who made it and was doing it and gave me game. And so then another thing that I did, which he didn't tell me, is, you know, that built my resume up, is that I started collaborating with arts organizations. I started just reaching out, getting on the phone, calling them, going to different events that were free that they may have had, and introducing myself. I'm a poet, blah, blah, blah. I would perform at any chance I got in front of anyone. People remember you. And I would make sure I would perform and kill it. And like, it was a slow burn, but it was a burn, and I could feel it. And you know, I just kept saying yes to stuff. I kept saying yes to things. Things would come, yeah, I'll do it. I wind up going to NACA, going to APCA. I was touring for a while, just doing poetry and also coaching with Metaphor Houston. I was persistent. I was extremely persistent. And the next thing I know, my CV, right, my curriculum vitae, started filling up. It just started filling up because I kept saying yes to things and kept doing things and applying. I started like looking for applications for like okay, well, maybe they would bring a poet in. Like, I would see like a residency that's all artists and visual artists predominantly. Well, maybe they'll bring a poet in. And they would. And I would be so a lot of times the only poet that ever like applied, right? So these were that's how it built up. We just keep applying to stuff and keep saying yes to people, and now I know how I'm a lot more mature in what I choose. Man, so I'm a theater major from Prairie View, and you know, so many of the techniques that I learned from Meisner and Stella Adler, you know, these are like for acting. But I just brought them into my performance world, right? Meisner is big on repetition. That's how I memorize. I have to start like just by saying a line over and over until you feel it, until it's repeatable. Stella Adler is more on the lines of like not letting you replicating your emotions. And so these practices I brought into my performances. People be like, "Oh, you're an actor." I think acting is a skill. I don't act. I don't act. I build characters and stuff like that, which may sound like I'm acting, but I'm also like improving. It's a lot more improv involved in what I'm doing, even if I have like my own script. And so these different techniques have been useful. A lot of techniques also on the performance side, right? It's a lot from acting, but writing, you know, what I learned from like just like a lot of self-taught to self-learn. Well, actually nothing was self-learn, right? I would talk to other poets, and when I would make a slam team, My coaches were really big on writing and heavy on technique, heavy on literary devices and making sure that the story or that the poem makes sense and you're not just getting up there. It's the craft over the style, right? These things have built who I've been, and I've taken and abandoned some of those ideas and took others and make it into my own, so I can be a full person, a full artist. Because yes, I am a spoken word artist, a performance poet. I used to slam. I'm an educator, but I want to be an artist. I want to an orator, but all of these things are a form of art where my body, my thoughts, my tongue, my voice, and my vocals are all harmony for you to enjoy and hopefully learn and hopefully want to be intrigued for more. I think reading and writing go hand in hand, obviously, right? If you want to be a strong reader, you need to be a strong writer. I don't see any non-truths in that. It helps out a lot. It helps a lot. It helps. What reading does for me is like I take the style and like, oh, this person did this. Oh, this person did that. It's a model for me. It's a model. And it's a model for me that I don't do as often as I used to. I'm not a strong reader. I'm dyslexic. And I'm dysgraphic, but I'm more dyslexic than I'm dysgraphic. And so being a strong reader, like I'm like, oh man, it's like I'm not the person sitting down reading novels and stuff. Because I know people who are not better writers than me who do read full novels, right? I do think that there's a craft that I've created and I've developed. But my gift is not writing. My gift is not like that's something I've developed. That's something that I've put work into. There is a skill there, but it's like there is a talent there, but that's not my full talent. My full talent that comes first for me is speaking, being able to talk. Being able to connect with people, being able to perform. The gab portion, the gab and performance is like, that's easier for me. That's what comes second nature. Everything else, I'm working for it to be second nature. And honestly, I probably will never get second nature of it. Hence why I continue working on it. And I'm a better performer right now, today, than I've ever been before.
How do you begin your creative process?
How I begin my creative process by, I try to write every day, but I try to write something. I try to enjoy something creative. Try to let my mind try to daydream. These things help feed that. Oh man, my boy Marlon said, if you're in the Marlon Fitzgerald Hall, he said, I'm trying to remember it, but the essence of what he said I got from it, right? And it was, when you are creating, you have to, when you are creating, you may be creating not practically. You might even just be sitting down and thinking, and that counts, right? Anytime you put your mind and your thought to a creative, that counts to creating, because everything starts with the thought, right? Another thing for me that I've started like adapting in my practice, right? So I would like to share this with y'all, is that I think we see inspiration wrong, right? I think we see inspiration as like, writer's block. Oh, that's why I can't do it. It's very convenient. And I have a lot of things I'm against when it comes to writer's block. But I feel like we think creativity is not creativity, but inspiration always has to hit us. And if it doesn't hit us, then it's not worthy of it. But that's not true. You have to chase creativity. Creativity, you have to chase inspiration. Inspiration has to be chased. So if you write frequently, not every day, but if you write frequently or you create frequently, you can still run into inspiration or catch up to it because it's always gone. It's always gone. And sometimes if it's a track, right, it will come around and it will hit you out of nowhere. Sometimes inspiration hit you like a train, right? But for the most part, when you create, you're creating, and all that you've created, and then you get inspired or inspiration does, or you do hit inspiration, then you have everything else that you have. You're like, hey, I can pull this all together. I can pull all this together now. And it just helps to have like these pieces. I also feel that writer's block is not real. If writer's block is real, then let it be an actual block of like marble, and you have to chisel at it. And your masterpiece is in that block, that writer's block. So every time you write, picture that as like you're chiseling. Your masterpiece is in the block. That's how I kind of view creativity, and I try to live by that myself. Oh man, so get writer's block out of your vocabulary. Get that out of your vocabulary and try to create / write as often as you can. Build that muscle, keep that muscle. You know what I mean? You know, like when you write, it's like a lubricant, it's like maintenance, right? You are a rare, fine-tuned car. You know, you are a foreign. There's not another one. You know what I mean? There's not another one of you. So, you know, treat yourself well in your creativity. You know what I mean? Do you need to be outside and perfect weather or weather? You know what I mean? Outside, because we live in Houston, right? Cool, set that up. If you need to like zone out and then do it, but treat yourself well when you create. If you're like me and more of a sporadic, boom, I'm gonna write this real quick or in my phone and then transfer it later, right? But however you write, allow yourself to write. I can write with noise. It doesn't bother me. I actually prefer it. I'm here for it. Put me in the coffee shop. I'm gonna write with noise. I'm gonna look at TikTok. I'm gonna look at Instagram. I'm gonna go back to writing. I'm gonna look this up, do this, go back to writing, right? It's a whole process. It's a whole thing. But I'm gonna write, and I'm gonna come up with, hey, this is dope. And the reason why I do that is because I also love to edit. I'm one of the few people that I like to edit my work, but I can't edit nothing if I don't have it. So, like lubricate with your fuel. Find your fuel, and give yourself maintenance creatively. I mean. I found my voice by mimicking other people, right? For a while I was mimicking Sonny Patterson. I was mimicking Buddy Wakefield. Everybody was. I was mimicking all kind of people. I was mimicking Seven from here, Prairie View grad, straight from Houston. I was mimicking everyone, mimicking Nas. I was mimicking everybody until I found my own. But I had an intention of finding my own, right? I wasn't just mimicking just to mimic. I had every intention of finding my own voice. And you know, and maybe you'll see the hint of Susan Laurie Parks or Bamuthi Joseph. Maybe you'll see those hints, those shades of it, but that's my voice. Ooh, that's a good question. So, what goes into developing work with a non-traditional audience and medium? Well, first off, I'm already humbled because when I was asked to be a part of it, or they said yes to my ask. So I'm already humbled out the gate. That's one. Two, the poetry audience is not equal to whatever the audience I'm with. So I'm humbled again, right? So I'm getting a bigger look. I'm being, that's a lot of reasons why like gatekeeping happens, right? Because it's like, well, we had to work for this audience, get your own. You know what I mean? But I've been blessed to people have allowed my talents to come through the door. I'm a good egg. I try. People remember character. I remember that people remember character. So I'm super talented, but if I'm hard to work with, I'm super talented and hard to work with, I probably won't get called again. Or if I'm super talented and easy to work with, great to work with, I'll probably get called again. Or someone will be like, hey, on my behalf, someone will fight for me to get calls again, right? And it's like a heartfelt there. So I take that into account. I also want it to be dope, dog. Like, bro, I want it to be dope. I don't want to do anything that's gonna be. I don't want that. I want that shit to be live. You know what I'm saying? I want it to be live. I want it to be live. So I'm gonna bring ideas, or if it's their vision, yo, listen, I'm ancillary. Yo, let's go ahead. I'm a Lego. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? And my whole thought, my whole vision is I'm not really worried about the audience. I'm worried about the product. And I'm not really worried about the product. I'm worried about the process. Process over product, product over audience. Boom. Most out-of-the-box collaboration. I don't know what the most out-of-the-box collaboration I've put together. One, it's not that we, right? It would have been a we at that moment, right? But one I had the pleasure of being a part of. I would say, most out of the box. Let's think here. I don't know, man. I've had a lot of dope ones. The ballet was fire. Anytime I work with a dance troupe, it's fire. Anytime I've worked with a dance troupe, it's been fire. Whether it's just been my voice or whether it's whatever. Music, my boy Russell, him, which people are like, and I've bought a lot of poetry albums, and there's only a few that I'm like, oh, this is fire. Usually I'm kind of like whatever to poetry albums. So when I started making music with my poetry, I wanted it to be something that would have some meat and potatoes to it. You know what I mean? Some meats and things that people could actually like and jam. Who knows? I'm open because to me, I've worked with visual artists, I've worked with sculptors, I've worked with mask makers, I've worked with muralists, I've worked with on and on and on. I'm here for it all. You know what I mean? Every arts organization in the H I've worked with for the most part, and I'm proud of that. And that's the beauty of writing, because it's so easy to marry writing with whatever the other medium is, and I tend to do that. Writers in the Schools does that really well as well. And so the craziest, I don't know, they're all crazy. I know that's a whack answer, but one that anytime I've done it, and it's been when I was doing midweek stanzas, and I was literally collaborating with spontaneity of people, me sitting still in some random place, my camera way over in yonder, and people just interacting. with me, and I'm not moving. Like that was pretty cool, and being able to do that and sustain that was awesome as well. Man, my legacy? Well, this poet laureate helps out a lot, I want to be remembered as an artist that cared for tomorrow. I want to be an artist that cared for tomorrow, that an artist that put time and heart and effort in building up the next generation, but also building up something where building up craft and work that people could see the value in it, not just monetarily, but also see the value in it as far as what it's worth on a priceless end. And yeah, that's what I want. I want to be remembered as a good man, as a funny man, as a man that was pure of heart, as pure of heart as he could be. I want to be remembered as a collaborator. I don't think I've reached my peak with my art yet. I keep learning new things and learning new ideas.
What's good? It's your girl, TT on the mic. Check out this TED Talk.
Welcome to something special. Welcome to TEDx. This TEDx event is part of a global conversation that takes place every day in every corner of the world. In schools, in theaters, in workplaces, even in prisons, people gather to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. More than 3,000 TEDx events are held every year in 170 countries. It's a remarkable thing. TEDx events are self-organized under a license from TED, a non-profit organization devoted to discovering and sharing powerful ideas in the form of TED Talks. It's not TED itself, but your local TEDx team of volunteers that has done all the work to put on today's event, including booking all of the speakers. It's this team's ideas, dedication, and time that have made this possible. We really hope today's program sparks an exciting conversation. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you will take out. And now, on with the show.
Greetings. My name is Taylon Owens, and I am a senior chemical engineering student here at Prairie View A&M University. Over the past year or so, I have had the opportunity to organize the first ever TEDx PVAMU. Now, of course, it was not our original plan to have a virtual event, but given the status of COVID-19, we had to make the safest decision possible. Life is all about adaptation. Just as we have adapted our event to the current circumstances, it is our hope that each of you have been able to do the same as well. The TED platform was born in 1984 as an intersection between technology, entertainment, and design. Its global reach has made way for the establishment of TEDx events that recreate the stimulating TED atmosphere at the local level. You all are a part of history by participating in TEDx PVAMU. This is the first TEDx event on campus. We are the second institution in the A&M system to host one of these events, and one of the few HBCUs to do so. Our goal with TEDx PVAMU is to aid in unlocking your mind while showcasing what it means to be a Prairie View Panther. Our culture is rich, and our campus is home to numerous individuals who are going to evoke positive change on the world. The chosen theme is Unlock Your Mind. In order to deconstruct and rewrite the narratives for minorities and marginalized communities, we must first educate ourselves. Only after unlocking our mind will we be able to come together and change the world. Our theme will be addressed in 5 areas: hard work and community engagement, civic engagement and activism, student life, alumni perspective, and a creative work. Our lineup for tonight consists of the creme de la creme, the best speakers on this side of heaven. They represent the when I say PV, but I'll just let you all see that for yourselves. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to present to you all TEDx PVAMU. Our first speaker is the epitome of leaving your legacy. He has transformed life on campus as we know it, and he will speak today on a phrase he calls hard work. Ladies and gentlemen, kicking us off for the evening is the one and only Mr. Orok Orok.
I have cheated my entire professional career. For 17 years, universities think they have been paying me to develop student programs, run all of these reports to make data-informed decisions. But I don't care about any of that. I drudge through all of that work so that I can spend time with these confused little humans that we call our students. Let me tell you, no group of people are more mysteriously amazing than the group of know-it-alls that are both confident and scared at the exact same time. I literally collect a salary to clear their heads, fill them up with this philosophical jargon, and send them off into the world to search and destroy. I love my job. At every level of my career, starting as a student in the Office of Student Activities to becoming president of some grand university one day, my secret to success has been to deprogram the environmental and social conditioning of the minds of our students and open them up to their own interests, desires, and curiosities. This was me in 2003 as a PAL, Panther Advisor Leader. Our role was to ensure that every newly enrolled student knew that they made the right choice to attend this university before their first day of class. To break through their hard, cool kid outer shell, we had to employ my secret 3-step process. Encroach, inspire, employ. Encroach. P for Prairie VIEW. Me and 100 other pals screaming the school songs and chants at the top of our lungs from the moment you woke up until you learned all 64 dance moves of the school dance we call the PV Shuffle. By the time we were done with you, you were tired, crazed out of your mind, and yet begging for more. We got all up in your space and we got comfortable, only so that you could get comfortable in this new place, this university, your new home. Inspire. P for Prairie VIEW. You, yeah, you belong here. It was imperative for me to ensure that every student knew that they belonged here. You belong here, in this place. This is that place for you to explore all of you. Use those classrooms and use these student organizations, and those grilled cheese sandwiches from the CAF gave me an extra 45 pounds for me to get to know while I was here in this place. This is that place. This is the place where you begin the rest of your life. Ever since the first grade, they were always asking us, what do you want to be when you grow up? And to this day, I still don't know the answer to that question. I take the line in my job description, other duties as assigned, very serious. And I assign myself the duty of releasing our students from their fears of expectations and exposing them to new fields of exploration while they're at this place. Employ. P for Prairie V. How do you do you? This is probably one of the most important questions that we ask our students because it affirms that they have a unique contribution and it's needed. It confirms that all the energy that we put into inspiring our students helps them to see themselves. We employ them so that they can learn themselves. College days are some of the best days that we all get to experience because we get to discover who we are. Our duties as professionals to ensure that we put those discoveries to great use. Mr. Orock, you helped me realize that I really love dance and dancing brings me so much joy. Oh, really? Did you know that we had over 10 dance organizations and one dance company here on the campus that you can join today? Mr. Orock, I'm an engineering major and I want to join an organization, but y'all don't have anything for engineering majors. Oh, really? Did you know I'm looking for 10 students to serve as my production and design team for a campus activities board? Do you know anyone who would be interested? Mr. Orock, I'm learning so much about operational theories and organizational theories in higher education. I didn't know I loved this until now. Oh, really? How would you like to work in my office and develop student programs and run these reports so that we can make data-informed decisions? Encroach, inspire, employ. What happens at my day job with these students is nothing other than decluttering of the heart space, making room in their heads and their minds to fully experience themselves as they exist in the world. Who knew that the crux of my work as a professional would be considered some of the most important work that every human has to do? I call it heart work. Heart work begins with acceptance. I could say that only college students struggle with this concept of acceptance. However, I know that acceptance is really hard for some of us to digest, whether we're young or old. Traumas and dramas and triggers, oh my. All of us have experienced things that have led us to ask the question, why? Why didn't I get that job? Or why do they treat me this way? Or why don't I have enough? Or why am I not enough? Some of the sources of major conflict in our lives comes from the fact that we desire from other people. We desire to be acknowledged. We desire to be accepted. We desire to be admired. We want to impose our will on other people. If other people just did what we asked them to do, then the world would be a perfect place. But no, I want to release you from that train of thinking. This session begins with heart work, and we'll start with your definition of love. M. Scott Peck, the author of the book, The Road Less Traveled, has a definition of love that I subscribe to, in which not only frames how we accept ourselves and how we accept other people, but also how we should exist in relationships. We'll use this definition to better understand acceptance. Let's call this segment Acceptance from Love. M. Scott Peck defines love as the will to extend oneself for one's own or another's spiritual growth. We'll have to break this down piece by piece to understand how it connects to acceptance. The will to extend oneself. This simply means that you choose to employ your own authority over yourself to stretch past all that you are. You are the author of your actions. You are the author of your experiences. You shape how your experiences register in your mind. The will to extend oneself for one's own or another's spiritual growth. Your spiritual growth, that's who you will become. Another's spiritual growth, that's who they will become. I take spiritual growth to mean the act of striving towards the idea or image of your greatest self. Let me say that again. Spiritual growth is the act of striving towards the idea or image of your greatest self. This quotient of spiritual growth goes past the limitations of your current conditions, past the limitations of your former environments, and dare I say, past the illusions of reality in your mind. This definition of love implies that you, as an individual, and everyone else in their own individuality, has an idea of who they wish to become. Let's be clear. To fully understand this concept of acceptance, you have to know this to be true. You can't control what someone is or who they will become. No matter how we rationalize it, every individual is striving to meet their own needs and become their idea of their greatest self. By this definition of love, the will to extend oneself for one's own or another's spiritual growth, you can only offer your support for another person that's striving to be their greatest self. You can't impose your desires on their life because that is not in your control. Does that question make you feel convicted in any way? If it does, this is where heart work begins for you. I want to share with you where heart work began for me. I accept my mother and how she chooses to live outside of my family unit. I accept the lifestyle that she has chosen for herself as she sees best fit for her. I support her. I want her to be happy and fulfilled, even though that does not include me. Does that hurt? Absolutely. Shame, abandonment, these are all experiences that I have lived, which have led me to doubt whether or not I was good enough, or led me to try to find attention in all the wrong places, or had me impose all of these strict controls on my relationships. At the age of 26, my heart was still 12 and cold and hardened because I couldn't receive the love that I wanted. I wanted everyone to give me what my mom hadn't given me in all those years. And that was simply to be accepted, to be loved. But it wasn't until I accepted her. It wasn't until I accepted her image of herself. It wasn't until I accepted all of her that I began to release those strongholds in my heart that was occupied by fear, resentment, and anger. To love her is to accept her, as she sees herself without regard of what I want out of the deal. No more petitioning for love unrequited. No more shrinking to someone else's idea of who I should be. No more trying to convince the world that I am good enough. Acceptance. It somehow mutes all of those external voices that proclaim what you are not and opens you up to everything that you are. This pandemic has caused us to face some of the things that we commonly run from. Our health, care for our neighbor, loneliness, and even death. And while those are all monstrous, the biggest monster of them all was that for the first time in a long time, we had to face ourselves. Many of us are familiar with being still, finding calm, or meditation, but during the quarantine, we had to sit with our thoughts. Let me ask you, during the pandemic, did you take the time to redesign your home spaces to match your creativity or your comforts? Did you take on any new challenges that may have previously scared you? Did you take the time to notice the worlds within our world that maybe we were too busy to notice when things were normal? I hope that you use some time during this pandemic to really heighten your awareness and get to know yourself just a bit more. While dodging COVID, I grew an affinity for growing other living things, not only as a professional, but also in my dad's backyard garden. I asked my dad one day, I said, "Dad, can we grow sunflowers so that we can make our own sunflower seeds?" My dad said something that completely caught me off guard. It was really, really deep. My dad replied, he said, "Son, in order to enjoy the beauty of sunflower seeds, you have to be willing to let the sunflower grow past the beauty we all know." I was like, whoa, Dad, where did that come from? Wow, it was so deep. Nature always has a way of saying these things that are super deep. Like that phrase, the faith of a mustard seed. I never knew what that phrase really meant until I heard it in a completely different way. Miles Monroe once said, God hid everything that a thing is supposed to become in itself. So that means that this mustard seed, so small and seemingly insignificant, contains all the information and processes and procedures in itself, that it needs to become a full-blown plant in itself. That small mustard seed already knows what it will become and will pursue its highest level of spiritual attainment. You are just like that mustard seed. You have been encoded with everything that you need to reach your highest self. You also grew an awareness to witness the entire process and also reach for your highest spiritual attainment. This part of heart work is about following your senses towards your interest, your desires, and your curiosities. You don't have to know where you're going to move towards what you will become. Following your senses only requires that you accept things as they are while knowing that the answers to the question that you have exist within you. An Indian mystic named Sadhguru said it like this. He said, life is not about becoming superhuman. It's about realizing that being human is super. You are super, and no one needs to know that or celebrate that but you. You have to be bold enough to do the hard work necessary to become your idea of your greatest self. Accept the world as it is, and then use this newly freed space to explore all of you. Hard work starts off as that hard work that begins the moment you realize that the world doesn't revolve around you. First, you must learn to accept the world as it exists within, and then the world that just so happens to surround you. No matter who you thought was supposed to love you, you are the generator that powers your spirit higher. Bring all of you into your awareness so that you can follow your heart's desires. Whether that's engineering the next supercar or becoming the world's top nurse or marching in storms to stamp your own impression, know that you don't need permission to show up as you using your own desired method of self-expression. You are the master of your piece, and your masterpiece should be your most masterful artwork. I welcome you to this place and extend to you the grace to begin your own heart work. Thank you.
What an amazing and thought-provoking speech. Since I can't interact with you all in person, I just want to remind you to interact with us on social media using the hashtag TEDx PVAMU. And before we go on to the next speaker, I just want to highlight our sponsors. Without you all, this event would not have been possible. Next up, we have a trailblazer who is taking control of her time as a student. Before COVID, some of you may have seen her riding around on her bike or fighting for food sovereignty. I present to you the lovely Miss Inez Fraser.
My love for agriculture started in kindergarten. My teacher, Miss Smith, asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And truthfully, I've been watching way too much Buffy the Vampire Slayer that I even knew the dance intro. So, I obviously told her I wanted to become a vampire slayer. Frantically, she called my mom and advised me to choose something else. So, I did what any other normal horse girl would do, become an equine veterinarian. I had never gone horseback riding, but I knew I wanted to work with large animals, and I begged my mom to take me horseback riding for months until she finally said yes. That's when I knew I needed to study. You see, for some odd reason, I thought they were going to quiz me on the anatomy of the horse and the tack that would be needed to ride the horse. I studied up until the very last minute when my mom yelled for me to get into the car. I felt alive and free while riding the horse. Not only did I feel free because of the interaction with this magical creature, but also because it was an outlet for my childhood self to get away from being bullied. I'd recently gone from a diverse school to a predominantly rich white school. Kids would make fun of me for my hair, my skin color, the dresses my mom had sewn for me, and many other things. But this led me to want to change my appearance so I could feel accepted. So every night, I'd say a prayer to God, please let me have blue eyes and straight hair when I wake up. I would skip afternoon swim practice so I wouldn't get a tan. I wore my hair up in a tight bun from 2nd grade to 8th grade so I wouldn't have to hear the comments about how my hair is ugly and messy. I felt alone. My dad was working 2 hours away, and my mom was a sweet French lady whom I didn't think would understand American racism. It wasn't until a beautiful and bright girl, Kennedy, who walked into my 5th grade class and became my best friend. You see, Kennedy didn't care about my hair or my skin color or my clothes or anything. She just wanted to crack jokes, help people, and play soccer. We remained best friends all throughout middle school too, but things started to shift in 8th grade. She had to go get surgery for a brain tumor. And although I was 13, I didn't understand the weight of the situation. Thankfully, her surgery went well, and all of her best friends and I were able to play with her in the hospital gym afterwards. Everything was relatively okay until the cancer came back stronger than before. She had stage 4 terminal brain cancer. Having to overhear from the adults say that your best friend is only expected to live 4 months from now places a chokehold on all of your future aspirations. In April, we reached out to Drake, Kennedy's favorite artist at the time, asking him to come and visit Kennedy. And on his only day off, he came and visited Kennedy and all of her friends and family. Gradually, the brain cancer took over her normal motor functions, but I would visit, hold her hand, talk to her, and read her some of her favorite books. I felt an immense amount of guilt for not being a better friend. Throughout elementary and middle school, I wanted to be seen and accepted, so I believed I needed to change to fit the mold everyone had for me, that I needed materialistic items to be cool and popular, that I needed to be someone else than who I truly was to be accepted. This led me to not being the best supportive friend at the time. I was so caught up trying to impress people who didn't even accept the authentic me. Filled with guilt, sadness, and anger, the only thing that brought me some type of solace was being in nature, gardening, or interacting with animals. I no longer cared what people thought about my hair, what clothes I owned, or what people thought of me. I just wanted to crack one more joke with my best friend just one last time. I knew that wherever I went, I'd have to bring my true self. So, we all create an image of contentment and a path to achieve it, as this gives us a sense of purpose. With the contentment that nature brought me, I learned more about food security, nutrition, and sustainability. I grew food in my backyard with my parents and learned how racial inequities played within our food system. With that, I grew a sense of purpose and made it my life's journey to alleviate food insecurity. When I was a freshman on campus, I vividly remember my intro to animal science course where we took a trip down to the Governor Bill and Vera Daniel farm. I remember seeing so much potential as to what we could do and how the students could take part. I remember writing up different projects and how we could achieve them, how we'd get the funding, and what an impact this would make to support not only the university, but also the citizens of the cities nearby us. I pitched my idea to professors, administrators, and peers. And while everyone loved the idea, they just said, I hope you're able to make this come true. Dumbfounded, I'm like, well, could you potentially help me out? And without a veil, I would always hit the wall with the words, oh, sorry, I'm too busy, or just wait until we have somebody who can help you out. I couldn't stand those answers, and I didn't want to give up. So I'd go back to the drawing board, rant a bit to my friends, and eventually asked my dad for advice. He would always say, no just means not yet, or you're not asking the right person. So I shared my message with anyone who would listen in hopes that someone would see the value in creating a student-led garden that would allow for students to get connected with their food and allow the communities around us to not be food insecure. The closest store that has affordable, fresh, and nutrient-dense food was 20 miles away from campus, yet we had approximately 800 acres of farmland. It wasn't until Dr. James A. Wilson Jr., my mentor, professor, and motivator, listened to my story, and instead of saying, I wish you well, shocked me with, "You're the person I've been waiting for." Within a year, we received a $15,000 foundational grant for the student garden to get started. Not only that, but the vision would include the collaboration of the College of Agriculture and the College of Business to eventually start a farmer's market. Everything felt like it was finally coming together, but other people had different plans for this vision. Instead of this being about the impact that it would make for the wellness of the university and the surrounding cities, it became a game of who would get the most recognition. The project's primary focus was no longer about how we can help those around us eat healthy. It became about profit and glory. Similarly to other creatives, ideas can get hijacked. But in moments when aspired outcomes don't work out as you had envisioned, you can either persist with what you believe is right, or you can freeze, rest, and work at it in another angle. I chose the latter, and Dr. Wilson gave me the validation to rest, pivot, and keep pushing on. He always encouraged me to do more and be more with the opportunities that the university and the world provided. As he always said to his students, "Don't be typical." In 2019, I applied to 3 different programs that would allow me to further my dream of becoming a farmer and a medical doctor who helped build up Black and Indigenous communities through their food systems. I attended the Summer Institute for Emerging Managers and Leaders at the University of California to learn more about business and build relationships with people who are already passionate about that field. I was able to participate in a case study, present our ideas to Booz Allen Hamilton representatives, and secured funding for an MBA. Next, I was off to Switzerland and Croatia to study food security and nutrition through the School of International Training. While there, I was able to choose a research topic that interested me. I decided I would talk about racism in agriculture, but the major issues that I faced were, 1, I had absolutely no one to interview in Switzerland about American racism in agriculture. 2, the people that were talking about this topic were not getting the recognition that they deserved. Thus, it was not easily searchable. And 3, after emailing and cold calling major agriculture companies and nonprofits, they all said something similar to, "I don't know of any racial issue that exists in agriculture," or I simply wouldn't get a response. I was bummed, but I did have one person get back to me and say that I could interview them. Miss Lindsley Lunsford from Tuskegee University and I were able to discuss the atrocities that have been put up against Black people, Native Americans, and Latinx people. I had found that 97% of the arable agricultural land in the United States was owned by white people. In 1910, 14% of U.S. farmers were Black and collectively owned 16 million acres. By 1997, fewer than 20,000 farmers were Black and collectively owned 2 million acres. That's a drastic change from 1 million farmers to less than 20,000 farmers. Since the 1920s, there's been a steady decline in the number of Black individuals who will operate farms in the United States. If African American farmers had left agriculture at the same rate as white farmers since the 1920s, there would still be 300,000 Black farmers left, as Pete Daniel stated in his book, Dispossession. Natives are 2 to 4 times more likely to be food insecure, largely as a result of living in remote locations where food supplies are scarce. In 2011, the racial makeup of farm workers were 28.6% white, 3.4% Black, and 65.3% Hispanic. Farm workers are excluded from federal overtime requirements, and they used to be excluded from federal minimum wage requirements. With all of these statistics, how could I not want to create change? My work in racism in agriculture didn't halt there, but days after my adventure in Switzerland, I traveled to China to participate in the Zhiqing Fellowship, where students from China and students from the United States interacted to help build relationships between these 2 countries. It wasn't until I was in China where I realized I had signed up for the wrong part of the program. I signed up for the technology part of the program instead of the sustainability part of the program. So even though I accidentally marked X on the wrong box, I have now been able to further mesh the idea of agriculture and big data together. Embrace collaboration within yourself using the knowledge and passion that you're most comfortable with and intertwine that with something that you have very little knowledge about. By participating in all three of these experiences, I've been able to remain resilient, adapt to challenges that are in front of me, and add more to the Prairie View community. Prairie View A&M University. The name has changed several times, from Alta Vista Agriculture and Mechanical College for the colored youth to Prairie View State Normal and Industrial College. Even though change is inevitable, the three values on the Prairie View insignia remain true for success as a student today: research, teaching, and service. Through research, you'll be able to see what you enjoy, what piques your interest, what you don't enjoy doing. Always be willing to place yourself in front of opportunities regardless of the outcome. By conducting research, I have met lifelong friends, traveled to 3 different countries, and found my passion. Even though we come to college to be taught by others, there are plenty of time where the role switches, where the student is now the teacher. Those around you may not have the same resources, opportunities, or experiences as you. When this happens, be sure to share an internship opportunity, a scholarship, or even introduce them to someone who can help them further achieve their goals. I learned that from Kennedy. The essence of compassion. She gave me the courage to stop trying to be like someone else. Now, I advocate for others to strive for their best and support them when they fall. So, this is your reminder. Wherever you go, make sure to bring you with you. Service comes in many forms, and Dr. Wilson was a service to others by truly listening and uplifting his students. You could find students running in and out of his office, just needing to vent, and he would give his undivided attention to make sure that they were taken care of. Find a mentor that supports you, and be sure to give back to the communities that are around you. By volunteering with nonprofits, you can help others and build relationships with other bridge builders. I was able to do this through Agriculture Future of America, where they provide students with the opportunity to interact with industry professionals, and the FarmLink Project, a group of students working nationwide to combat food insecurity amid the ongoing pandemic by bringing food from farms with surplus crop to those in need. The FarmLink Project was started in April 2020 when a group of university students couldn't stand the idea of billions of pounds of food going to waste every year, and millions of people going hungry every day. They risked the idea of starting a nonprofit to change that, and now the FarmLink Project has delivered over 24 million pounds of food to families in need. So tell your idea to others, work on it, fail at it, and learn from it. When you're passionate about a topic, it can be incredibly hard to keep it to yourself from talking to everyone else about it. I kept telling people about my vision for a student garden until finally someone said yes 2 years later. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to bet on yourself and go. As Dr. Wilson always said, don't be typical. In July of 2014, Kennedy passed away. And while I lost my best friend, she taught me how to be a better advocate for myself and for those who need support. I now aspire to create a farm that helps build up Black and Indigenous communities. With the injustices that go on within the agriculture field, I know that I'll be able to shine some of Kennedy's light onto the work that I will be doing. So, I leave you with this. We all go to work to get rich, but what are you truly enriching?
In addition to our sponsors, I would like to thank and recognize all of the individuals who have helped turn our idea into a reality. Thank you for your support, your advice, and your inspiration. I would like to give a special shout out to my mom. Without you, I would not be where I am today. Our third speaker needs no introduction. Do not rub her the wrong way because she is not afraid to use her voice and speak up. And she will also organize a protest in a quick second. I now present to you the icon, Miss Jayla Allen.
Do me a favor. Think of the very first time you heard the word service. Then think of how you serve or are of service in your communities and in the world today. When I was a junior in high school, my grandfather passed away. The week following his passing, our family hosted the usual memorial services consisting of a wake and a funeral. During this time of grief and loss, there wasn't very much that I remembered. In fact, there wasn't very much I wanted to remember. But of the memories I do have, one of them I'm particularly fond of. In fact, it's one that I hold near and dear to my heart. And that's the story that my grandfather's former student and athlete shared with us during his service. This student got up before the church and started to tell a story of how he was being threatened with suspension. And in wake of his suspension, the board was going to host a special meeting. At this special meeting, certain people show up. And of those people that show up is my grandfather, this student's coach and teacher. My grandfather not only shows up for this student, but he actually goes to advocate before the board for the student. And in the words of the student, he fought for him. He did so in a way that this student was able to stay in school. When I first heard the story, I thought that this was a story of victory that included my grandfather that this young student could share. But then I soon realized that with that story and all the other stories that everyone shared, and even some of the stories that I had heard before my grandfather's passing, all of that meant one thing and outlined one thing for me. And that was that my grandfather had lived a life of service, that he was dedicated to living a life of service. At that time, I started to ask myself, what is service? What does it mean to be a person or to live a life of service? And what exactly was I passionate about, therefore I could serve in that capacity? Because let's face it, I was a 17-year-old teenager who thought I knew everything, and everything I was involved in I was passionate about. Well, that turned out not to be true. A year later, I went off to college, and I enrolled in Prairie View A&M University. Upon my arrival on campus, I saw the hundreds of activities and organizations I could throw myself into, literally. But I promised myself we were going to take some time. We were going to secure a good GPA, one that could maintain our scholarship and also one that I could apply to law school with in a few years after graduation. Once I had done that, I told myself that now it was time to approach this idea of going out and becoming involved on this campus. Before I could go out and seek some of those opportunities, one came to me. And that was the opportunity of becoming precinct chair. I did not know what a precinct chair did. I knew of them, but not of their duties. I quickly found myself being appointed a week before Christmas break. And with this appointment, I knew that there were greater challenges that were going to come. But of those great challenges, I thought that they might have been the fact that I was one of the youngest ones in the nation to ever be named precinct chair. Or in fact, that I was the first one to do so in this particular precinct. But I found that the greatest challenge of it all was in the idea that I was going to be precinct chair, given the duty within this role to organize and mobilize 9,000 plus Black and brown students at a historically Black college and or university. That university sits within a county that has spent the last 5 decades doing everything that they could do to severely suppress these students' votes. And here I was now to organize and mobilize them. I soon discovered my passion and how exactly I was going to spend a life of service. And that was through my activism and my call to advocacy. Service sounds like a simple task. At this moment, many of you are thinking in your heads how you served this year, or how you've served so far in your lifetime. But I want us, and I challenge us to think of service in a different way, in a different light. Service is not you volunteering to feed the homeless every year. And it's not you going to donate your old, used clothes that you no longer wear or no longer want to a clothes drive at your child's school. Service is something that requires us to make, one, a lifetime commitment to do. It's a continuous commitment. It's not one and then done. As an activist and social justice advocate, but most importantly, someone who dedicates their life to service, I believe that my greatest purpose is not to only live a life of service, but to inspire others to do the same. You, and you. Service sounds like this simple task. And I think for a minute, I thought so too. With our efforts of committing to service, we can create a domino effect. A domino effect that requires the person that comes after us and the generations after us to do the same. How do we do it? Ask yourself these three things. First, what are you passionate about? Second, what inspires you or who inspires you? What's your inspiration? And lastly, can your passion be turned into a lifetime of service and do so in a way that inspires others to do the same? And for those of you who think that you have yet to find your passion, you might be right. But I challenge you to have the courage to raise your hand when opportunities around you arise. When you least expect it, you can find your passion. You can find what you can spend your life committing to service doing. I know I did. Service is something that I feel we should all be committed to. We should all inspire the generations behind us that come after us to do the same. I know that I never intended to be an activist, but I know that through my role of activism and advocacy, I can push the envelope of injustice and equality for every person that it has been denied, for every marginalized, underrepresented, overlooked person and community. And because I know that I can do that through my activism and my service through each of those capacities, my service is not an option, but it is a must. Now, truth is, activism, advocacy, to be on the front lines of movements of and tackling social justice issues, it was never something that had crossed my mind before I came to this illustrious campus. But since then, I've learned that service is something special. Activism is something special. You might not need to go be on the front lines of a protest or to go lead a march downtown to lead a social justice movement. But you might need to do something in this world for the greater good, for the generations that are to come, that no one else knows that it needs to be done. Or you might be passed the baton and continue the fight for whatever it may be that needs change, and you can lead it. How can you serve? Thank you.
Keeping the show rolling, our fourth speaker is no stranger to venturing into uncharted waters. He is continuing to pave the way for students who are interested in going against the norm. I now introduce to you, conductor by day, mortician by night, Mr. Glenn Alexander II.
So just a small disclaimer about me.
I'm the son of two ministers. My dad comes out of the Methodist church. My mom comes out of the Baptist church. That's significant because as a Methodist, usually they're in church at 11 o'clock, but they're out by 11:35. That's to say, I'm going to give you some good information in under 20 minutes. Now, on the Baptist side, I would not be correct in following correct protocol if I did not give this a title. So if you would indulge me for a few moments, I would like to call this the journey from Hobart to Harlem. From Hobart to Harlem. So when I was a child, I suffered from a speech impediment, a stutter so bad that I could not even pronounce my own last name. So imagine a kid in elementary school, the teacher calls on you and you can't even pronounce your name. So it was a little tough. So those experiences caused me to want to shut myself off. I didn't want to speak. I became introverted. I sort of created a cocoon and, I just didn't speak. But music was the way I could express myself without saying anything at all. I could go sit down at the piano and just play, and you could tell how Glenn was playing or how he was feeling. I could stand on the podium, much like this, and stand and wave my arms in front of people without saying a word, and they would understand what it is that I'm doing. So I could do this, and they know what that means, or I could do this, and they know what that means without saying anything at all. Music was the gateway to me expressing myself without saying anything at all. So fast forward a few years. So now I'm here at Prairie View A&M University as a music major. So something about music majors is that it's a full-time job. So on top of your regular coursework, you have to perform and you have to practice and make sure that everything goes in excellence. So I was blessed to have a really, really great teacher, Dr. Vicky Selden, who did not allow anything under excellence. We would have weekly private lessons, and those lessons were more than just learning how to play the Beethovens or the Bartoks or perfecting technique. She also gave me a lot of life lessons. And it wasn't just Dr. Vicky Selden, it was also Dr. Ajan Taylor, who gave me my first opportunity to conduct. So to her, I'm forever indebted. Not only Dr. Selden, not only Dr. Taylor, but also Dr. John Cornelius, who constantly stayed on my case. And he showed me, man, that this music industry is tough, it's competitive, it's dog eat dog, but they saw the potential in me. So let's pause there parenthetically. Sometimes in life, and I promise y'all this is not deep, sometimes in life you will go through things. Sometimes in life it will get hard, but it's very important to have a viable support system. I was very blessed and fortunate to have that here at Prairie View A&M University. They believed in me when I did not believe in myself. And it was those experiences here at Hobart, which is just a few steps that way, that prepared me for the life to come. Now looking in hindsight, I understand why they were on my case all the time. I understand why they made me practice. I stayed in Hobart. Sometimes I would spend the night in there because nothing less than perfection could come from me. So now let's fast forward. It's time to go off to graduate school. So I decide I want to go into orchestral conducting. So here's a little something about getting into grad school for music. It's a very, very tedious process. So you have to do what's called a pre-screening video. So that's a video audition to get an in-person audition, which gets you into the school. So again, there's a pre-screening video, so an audition to get an audition to get into the school. But I had a dilemma, right? So in order for you to pre-screen, you have to send a video of whatever it is that you're applying for. Now again, I want to go for orchestral conducting. So my dilemma was there was no orchestra. There is no orchestra here at Prairie View A&M University. So that means I was faced with a dilemma. Again, let's pause there parenthetically, and I promise you this is not deep. Sometimes in life, life will give you lemons. Sometimes in life, you will be faced
with some sort of trial or adversity. But what matters is how you deal with those lemons and how you deal with those adversities. Me personally, I turn those lemons into my favorite beverage, a Long Island iced tea. That's to say, I reached out to orchestras across Texas and Louisiana. 3 orchestras said, yes, you can come and get you some footage. And that's how I got into grad school. So I get my footage and it's time to give off the pre-screening stuff. And so, I'm hyped because I have my footage now. I'm about to apply. I've applied to all the big schools. I applied to my backup schools and, I'm ready. So I applied to about 6 schools, right? So I apply. The first school I heard from was actually my safety school. So I just knew that I got into my safety school. So I opened up the email, long story short, they was like, nah. The second one comes, nah. The third one comes, guess what? Nah. That one kind of stung a little bit because that third letter actually came on my fraternity's Founders Day. So I was a little sour about that. The fourth one comes, nope. The fifth one comes. I ain't getting to that one either. So at this point, I'm defeated. You mean to tell me I took all this time trying to get this stuff done and these people tell me no? So it broke me down. It made me want to quit. It made me just want to say, I can't do this. Let's pause there parenthetically again. Sometimes in life, it will throw you curveballs. Maya Angelou said, you may encounter defeat, but you must not be defeated. Sometimes we throw in the towel a little too early, right before we cross that threshold. Now, easily, I could have said, maybe I should do what people said I should do. Maybe I should just become a teacher, or maybe I should just, just play the piano and be happy. But I said, no, I ain't gonna do that. So, maybe I have to sit out a year, but at least I'm gonna do it. So the 6th letter comes, and I just know that it's going to say no because my safety school said no, all the other schools said no. So I might as well, not open it. So I waited a week. I opened it. They said yes. A music conservatory in New York said yes. My prayer was just, God, if you allow me one opportunity, I promise you that I will capitalize on it. And that's what happened. So now it's time to go to New York. This little black boy from Port Arthur, Texas, an HBCU grad, going to New York to study classical music. What? So now it's time to go off to New York and start grad school. And now I'm in this foreign place, away from my home, away from my family. I don't know anyone. No one knows me. The demographic is completely different from where I was at my HBCU. And it was a little intimidating at first because I didn't feel like I belonged. Why? Because all of these famous faculty who perform with the New York Philharmonic, who perform with the Philadelphia Orchestra, who does opera with the Metropolitan Opera, who is the #1 opera house in America. I'm sitting in the same seats as graduates from the Juilliard School, from the Oberlin Conservatory, from the Manhattan School of Music, where I attend now, actually, slight flex. And so at first, I felt like I didn't belong here because I'm in the presence of all these greats. But what I had to realize is, guess what? Y'all got an HBCU grad up in here, too. Let's pause there parenthetically. Sometimes we have to remember who we are. So I'm here in grad school, and I'm conducting, and I'm doing work in New York City every weekend. I'm a church musician as well, so I'm doing that. I'm producing, I'm arranging, I'm composing, like all of these things. And then I always think back to, I almost gave up. Nah, it's perseverance over here. So graduate school ends, and then I end up at the Manhattan School of Music. And everything leading up to that, I almost gave up before that too. So I almost missed the train coming into to the city to get to the audition. The day of the audition, I forget my shoes, my pants rip, and my conducting baton breaks in half. So to me, there is no way that this audition can go right. So I called my mom crying. I said, I can't do it. And she told me something so very profound. She said, Glenn, the reason why these things are happening is because something great is getting ready to happen. And at first I thought, she's just being pastor mom, but she was actually really right. I auditioned, get into the school, get a scholarship. Now I'm at the Manhattan School of Music. Like, the building was actually the original Juilliard, so you could only imagine the greatness that have passed the hallways that I'm like passing through now. Not only getting into the Manhattan School of Music, but also winning a conducting scholarship with the Chicago Sinfonietta. A little black boy from Port Arthur, Texas, a HBCU grad, not only at the Manhattan School of Music, not only doing the Chicago Sinfonietta, but also traveling, playing for artists, producing, composing, arranging, doing interviews, magazine articles, TV stuff. Like, it's mind-blowing. But it's all about perseverance. And to you, whoever you are, I'm coming here to tell you that the dream is possible, the dream is attainable, the dream is tangible. Why? Because I'm doing it. But the thing is, you have to persevere. One thing that I learned from being in the mortuary science, apart from knowing how much embalming fluid goes inside of you, is that life is short. And that each moment you have to not take it for granted. So that's why I said every time I get up to conduct, every time I get up to play for an artist or do anything, I'm gonna do it like it's my last time. It's a journey. If I can do it, you can do it. Thank you.
The overall objective of this event is to encourage and equip each of you with the profound knowledge of global objectives, scholarship, and leadership. Moreover, we urge you to think beyond yourself and for the betterment of society. To reinforce the ideas presented in today's talks, we urge each of you to read a copy of The Miseducation of a Negro by Carter G. Woodson and The Other Westmore by Wes Moore. A few of you watching have also had the opportunity to receive not only TEDx PVAMU memorabilia, but also a copy of one of these books. To wrap us up for the evening, I present to you someone who is no stranger to the spotlight. He is the true definition of Prairie View produces productive people. I present to you the legendary Mr. Alzo Slade.
Good people, good people, good people. What's happening? Prairie View A&M University. I'm at home. This place is woven into the fabric of my very identity. So a lot of what I'm going to say today happened here on this yard. I'm going to ask y'all a question. Do you remember when you were a kid and you just had this sense of wonder that was not restricted? You just asked all kind of questions based in just innocent curiosity. You nagging your parents, your aunts, your uncles, your aunties, your cousins. Why is this like this? Why is this like this? How is this like this? How does this work? Who are you? What are you doing? Why do we have to do it like this? And then it was a sense of freedom. You weren't bounded. And even when kids, you see their freedom when they're able to dress themselves. They wear a pair of combat boots with some swimming trunks, a turtleneck sweater, and a fireman's hat because they're free. They haven't been in society enough for society to tell them that they ain't matching or that's not how they're supposed to dress. And remember when you were a kid and somebody would ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Man, a kid had like 5 or 6 things. I know I did. I want to be a veterinarian. I want to be a race car driver. I want to be a professional chef. I want to fly airplanes. I want to be a professional bowler. And you said it as a kid with such confidence and conviction because you didn't think it was impossible. You were a free thinker. But then society comes along and gets a hold of you. And society tells you, they start to just sap that curiosity, that imagination. They begin to slice and dice you up to where that freedom that you had, it no longer exists because they telling you who you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to be it, what you're supposed to be. I'm going to tell you a little secret about me. Not that you asked, but I don't like people telling me what to do, especially if it don't make sense. Now, if it makes sense, we ain't got a problem. But if you telling me to do something and you telling me it's only one or two ways to do it and it don't make sense to me, my skin starts to itch. I start to feel restricted. I feel the walls closing in on me because you're restricting my freedom. You're not allowing me to come up with options that make sense for me. And I think I was like this, to be honest, since I was like 5 or 6 years old. Because I remember Saturday morning, I done my homework for the week. I grabbed me a fresh, cold bowl of cereal, plopped down in front of the TV, watched my Saturday morning cartoons. And of course, with impeccable timing, my parents wanted to decide in that moment that I need to take the trash out. Now, to myself, I say, now I know y'all just saw me sit down with this cereal to watch my cartoons. And we know you got about 3 to 5 minutes before them Fruit Loops go limp and get soggy. So I'm thinking to myself, it's got to be another option. So let me present another option to my parents. I said, do you think it's possible that I can wait until the commercial break to take this trash out? Boy, you heard your mama. Take that trash out. Now you done put me in a box. Now, I don't think this was wise of me, but then my reply was, well, what's going to happen to the trash between now and the commercial break that would necessitate me taking it out right now? Boy, if you don't take that trash out, if you grew up in a black household, you know you won't be asking questions like that. Even though my parents taught me to be critical thinkers, it was only outside of their presence and not in moments like this. And it was this disposition and this critical thinking of mine that slowly but surely led me to recognize, as an adult, I don't make a good employee. So I had to figure this thing out on my own. I had to forge my own path and figure out how to work for myself. But society ain't really conducive to you doing that, because when you come in here, they tell you in so many ways how you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be. And that brings me to Prairie View A&M University. So follow me on this cautionary tale, if you will. My freshman year at PV, I was a straight up class clown, because that's the only way I could get girls to pay attention to me. I was a scrawny little joker, you know, and I wasn't smooth at being smooth, so I couldn't be the suave cat. So, well, when I talk to girls and I get them to giggling, you know, and I'm jaw-jacking, they cackle-lacking, and ha-ha, and they hit my knee a little slightly, and they say, boy, you so crazy, you're so funny. When they said that, I'm like, boom, gotcha. And then I recognize, at least in that moment, my value in this world, the thing that makes me feel significant is being a class clown. So I just played it up. I was involved in extracurricular activities. It helped then. But when it came to my grades, my academic performance was lackluster at best. But I would use this comedic charm to charm my way with professors from a C- to a B, from a B to an A. But there was one professor who it did not work on, and he could read straight through me, the late and great Dr. Amari Obadelli. I would try to charm my way, oh, Dr. O, what's good, man, how you doing? He just look at me, what you doing, son? What you doing, young man? Mr. Slade, what are you doing? I see you popular on campus. I see you know a lot of people, you good with people. I see you funny, ain't nothing wrong with being funny, but you silly funny. You got more to offer than that. You know, you watch them cartoons and you see the cartoon character come in there with a chest out, then he get chin checked, and all of a sudden, that was me. And in that moment, I was like, man, I don't want to be the court jester no more. I don't want to be the village clown. I don't want to be silly funny. If I'm funny still, let me be smart funny. And I remember my roommate, his pops was Afrocentric and used to send him all sorts of books to read that he never read. And I said, man, I need to develop my intellect. So I was like, yo, bro, let me get one of these books on the shelf. I didn't know one book from the other. I just grabbed one randomly, and it happened to be Dr. Carter G. Woodson's The Miseducation of the Negro. I didn't know who he was. I never heard of the book. But in the book, he says something. He says, if you control a man's thinking, you control his actions. And I was like, oh, man, hold up, man, hold up. Don't nobody control me. I think for myself. I'm my own man. Then I continued to read the book. Maybe not my, God dog it. I started reading more books. And these books are telling me, you need to get to know yourself. Talk shows tell you, you need to look in the mirror. You need to get to know who you are. The self-help books, everything you need to know is within. Just get to know yourself. But they don't tell you how to do it. Be yourself. I got to know myself before I can be myself. You need to keep it real. I need to get real before I can keep it there. How do you do it? So I just started asking myself some very simple questions, but they was hard to answer. I was like, why do you think the way that you think? Why do you hang out with the people you hang out with? Why did you pledge the fraternity that you pledged? Why do you believe what you believe? Why do you wear the clothes that you wear? Why do you laugh at what you laugh at? And I had to square up with them answers because not all of them was pretty. And in that moment, what I was doing was I was learning about myself, removing shackles that I didn't even know that I had on me. And when you start to get to know yourself, it's a lonely game because as you removing shackles, you're able to see shackles on other people, right? I started to recognize that I'm spending money that I don't have on clothes that someone has convinced me that are fashionable to impress people that I don't know, and those that I do don't care. My pops told me, son, if a woman likes you for the clothes that you're wearing, you're with the wrong woman. I question why I believe what I believe. I was brought up in the church, strong Christian beliefs. I asked my pops, who I respect a lot, who's a pastor, Pops, what's up with this Jesus thing? Some of this stuff is confusing. He say, son, if you believe what you believe because we told you to believe it, that ain't true faith. The God that I serve can handle any questions you got. So go forth as long as you ask him within the right spirit, and that's intellectual and spiritual growth. So I was off. But then I told you it's a lonely journey. I'm on the campus of Prairie View. Now I'm the cat rocking the dashiki and the black fist around my neck. My frat brothers looking at me like I'm crazy. They come up to me and they like, you wearing a dashiki? Boy, you don't speak no African. You ain't African. I say, you wearing Greek letters. Speak some Greek then. I was going on a journey of self-discovery. But the society that we live in is not conducive to that. So you have to go at it by yourself to begin this journey of freedom. So then I said, yo, I graduated and I'm still in this flow of what society wants me to be. I graduate, I get a good job, good paying job. The VP of the company takes me underneath his wing and wants to groom me to take over his position. I buy a house at 22 years old. I got a new car. And according to the world, according to society, all I need to do is ABC 1, 2, 3, add a wife and a kid. And I got the American dream. I'm sitting in my house. I ain't bought it but for 6 months. I'm sitting in it and I'm starting to itch. I'm like, this don't feel right. I feel like the wall's closing in on me. I need to learn some more. I need to grow some more. So then I decide I'm going to apply to graduate school for a philosophy degree. Boy, is you crazy? Ain't nobody hiring no philosophers. But I needed it for freedom. At this point, learning was of primary importance to me. When I learn, I feel closest to God. Learning is what made me feel free because I'm learning about myself, and by learning about myself and God is within, I'm learning more about God. And God is also, I'm learning about all people. I'm learning about the universe. So this is the thing that is making me feel free because to me, freedom was more important than money. So I knew that I couldn't compete with the people on paper who were applying to this program as well. So I scheduled an appointment with the director of the graduate philosophy program at the school I wanted to go to. And when it was my time to meet this fella, I didn't know what he looked like. I just assumed he was a middle-aged white man. I see this middle-aged white man coming towards me. And before I could say something, this man says, oh, I'm so glad you're here. let me show you to the janitor's closet so you can get the vacuum cleaner and get to work. Ooh, Lord have mercy. Hold up, man. You know I wanted to slap the fire out this man. But I had to do a cost-benefit analysis. I was like, what are you there for? And thank God I had been doing the work on myself to understand why I was feeling that way, right? Because the work that I was doing on myself allowed me to see that this dude had been conditioned by society. He had been conditioned to the extent that it was impossible for him to see me as anything other than the help. So those were the shackles that he was wearing. So I'm not going to allow his shackles to shackle me, because that's what would have happened if I slapped the fire out of him like I wanted to. I proceeded to my objective, had the appointment, got into the graduate school. And every day since then, I've used critical thinking and philosophy to become more and more free. You see, when we are born, we're born into a society that already exists. A society that tells you who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to be it. A society that tells you the reason that we do this is because it's always been done. Words like tradition, custom, convention. No, bruh. No, I don't subscribe to that. Because if everyone subscribed to the idea that it's supposed to be done this way because it's always been done this way, there would have been no civil rights movement. There would be no technological advancements. There would be no medical advancements. Because Lord knows white folks would have been like, yeah, I mean, slavery, that's going to end at some point, but right now it's always been done this way, so we're going to continue to do it like this. No, bro. Now, if you swallow this brochure that society gives you to tell you who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to be it, you're killing yourself. Because this kind of conditioning creates blockage to your existential arteries that prevents the free flow of creativity that leads you to self-discovery to let you know that you can be free. So why would you accept anything other than? When you're learning, you're growing. So if you're not learning, you're not growing. If you're not growing, you're not living. And if you're not living, you're dead. And how many dead people do you know walking around here trying to impress people because society tells them that's what they're supposed to be? People on Instagram have swallowed the brochure. The problem with society is how sneaky it is. When you subscribe to society telling you to do what you're supposed to do in the way that they want you to do it, you feel good. You get accolades, satisfaction that's supported by people giving you praise, giving you likes on Instagram, giving you likes on Facebook. But deep down inside, you have this burning fire of curiosity that existed when you were young. But you can't fuel it because society is not conducive to you thinking for yourself, because there's so many people in line ready to think for you. But you will never be free in that way. Don't let society tell you who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to be it. Wear your combat boots, wear your fireman's hat, wear your swimming trunks and your turtleneck sweater if you want. Because we were born free. And then society taught us how to be a slave. And now it's up to you to determine whether or not you feel confident in teaching yourself how to be free again. Appreciate y'all.
TEDx has come to Prairie View A&M University. I am Chelsea Bianca Hill-Young, the Assistant Director of the Honors Program and co-coordinator of our TEDx. What started as an exchange of bright ideas with an honors student, Mr. Talon Owens, and myself, has finally come into fruition. To bring a never-before experience to our students, faculty, staff, and community, and to pour into you what has been poured into us from Prairie View. It is our honor to share with you our stories. As stated in Forbes, the TED and TEDx are powerful events because the organizers and staff don't do it for the money or fame, for which there is neither. They do it to make a difference. Just like the other speakers, I too evolved in college. All of who we are is inherited from generations of scholars, activists, scientists, nurturers, musicians, cultivators, prayer warriors, and everyone in between. We learn from actions rooted in love that we must pay it forward. If it's inspiration you seek, you can find it here. You can see it on our campus, in our classrooms, in our cafeteria where we all collect together at the end of the day, in our labs, in our history, and we can see inspiration in one another. Our hope for you all who are watching is that you see yourself in our heart work, in our mission for service and civic engagement, in our exploration as students, in our music, and in our path to liberate ourselves, and by doing so, you unlock your mind. There were challenges to make this event happen, but during this pivotal time in the world, we have shown you that we have what it takes to pivot. Here at PVAMU, we are tenacious, we are a family, and we are the change we will see in the world. We are TEDx PVAMU. Thank you.
And with that, it is time for our event to come to an end. I would like to thank you all for attending. I would like to remind you that TEDx PVAMU is not a one-day ordeal. I encourage and urge each of you to let your light shine. Continue to unlock your mind and redefine what it means to be an intellectual. As my parting words, I would like to leave you all with the phrase by the late, great Dr. James A. Wilson Jr. Do not be typical. Once again, my name is Taylor Owens, and I'm signing off.
What's good, guys? It's your girl TT on the mic, signing out of an amazing Tuesday. We have Professional Dress Tuesday. I got the chance of speaking with SGA President Marquin Booker and Vice President of Administration Kayla Washington. And of course, it's been great hanging with you and checking out the TED Talk. So now let's get on over to Hobart, Texas for an amazing selection from our choir.
I'm Dr. Ajan Taylor. I teach in the Department of Music and Theater in the College of Arts and Sciences. So the pandemic affected the choir in a lot of major ways. First off, we were not able to meet in person, and a choral organization or any type of music ensemble is definitely a communal effort. It means that, all individuals come together to perform a work of art, a piece of music. And so that impacted us in a major way in that, first of all, we were not able to come together. Second part of that is that we, in order to compensate or in order to make it work, we had to go on Zoom. And Zoom is not meant for singing or music, it is for speaking only. So that, and then only one person can speak at a time. So I had to devise ways to rehearse music online. So that meant that I had to teach to just a screen of little faces who could not interact with me. And then I had to call on them one-on-one to sing and, devise a whole lot of ways to make it work, which was very difficult. And the second part of that is singing was considered a super spreader. So when we did come together, we definitely had to be in masks, and we would come and meet here in the recital hall, but spaced out. And I was on stage. It was better than singing online, but we had to devise many, many ways to work. So as a result, all of our performances were virtual. The virtual performances that we prepared to be showed at commencement and other university events happened this way. First of all, we're very fortunate to have in the Department of Music a faculty member who understood that process. It was a new way of doing things. So each individual was recorded. Each member of the choir had to sing their part to a pre-recorded tape. And then Mr. Jeffrey Freeman, our faculty member, would record them. And then once everybody had gotten their recording done, then he would mix them and put them all together. And that's how we created the virtual choir performances. It was a new thing. Everybody, all choirs, everywhere, were learning how to do it and had to make it happen fast. And so that's the only way we were actually able to put together a choral performance. The concert chorale did a virtual performance of Imagine, a song written by John Lennon. And this particular arrangement was moving, first of all, because the music itself is very powerful and the words are so meaningful. When we imagine a world, that everybody will come together in unity. So first of all, the words were very moving. The music was moving. And then the particular arrangement was an a cappella arrangement, meaning that we performed it without instruments. And so you just were able to hone in and listen to the beauty of the voices for that performance. And I chose that particular piece because of the words and because it was very apropos for the times that we're in, when we're such a divided country. And so the words really spoke to that and provided a positive message. And so I think it was very moving for everybody involved, including us, the performers. This group of students is very special. First of all, musicians and singers who come together because of the love of singing is in itself a very powerful thing. This particular group of singers work very hard. They really have instilled in them not only a love for making beautiful music, but for doing it very well. They're very disciplined, and you have to be very disciplined to perform in a group like this. They are special because they each come with their own unique talents. They're all talented as singers. They also come with their unique gifts. They all come from different backgrounds, wonderful personalities, and it really makes for a special group. And so we enjoy working together with each other. Lots of friendships are formed and strong bonds are formed in ensembles and in this particular ensemble. And so it's just a very special group, and I'm grateful for that. In order to mitigate the COVID, we take these precautions. First of all, we sing in masks during rehearsals as well as in live performances. We space ourselves out. We rehearse in the recital hall. We're no longer rehearsing in our choir room. The recital hall gives us much more space. We can put more distance between singers. We've got a higher ceiling. I have air filters going during our performances and during our rehearsals rather, as well as fans. And so that helps with the air circulation. So mask spacing at all times. I choose the music for the choir, at least I chose music last year that was meaningful, that had a message that kind of helped heal us, and music that I thought would be healing and comforting for the people who listen. So we already mentioned Imagine, that was definitely one of my favorites. I enjoyed putting together the Aretha Franklin version of Bridge Over Troubled Water. That's always been one of my personal favorite pieces, and so I enjoyed that as well. In terms of the future, the chorale has already had one live performance during this semester. We had and one thing that we did in order to kind of regroup and to kind of rebuild our community after the pandemic, after not being together for over a year, was we had a choir camp that happened it was a full week of rehearsals and planned activities that took place a week before classes started this semester. And it gave us a chance to sing together in person. And the culmination of that week was just a mini performance. And so that helped jumpstart this year and helped bring us together after being away during the pandemic. And so now we are preparing for a live concert here that will take place here in the recital hall on November 18th. That's a Thursday, 6 p.m. So we're really enjoying putting that program together. And then next semester, we have an opportunity to sing at a major choral conductors conference. And so that will be something that we will look forward to, and it will really be an honor or a prestigious thing for the university for us to participate in this particular conference, Southwest American Choral Directors Association. So looking forward to that.
The only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one.
Imagine no perfection. I wonder if you no need for greed or hunger, a brotherhood